So welcome everybody. Excuse me, that's not a virus, it's my allergy. I would like to call to order the Bethel Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. And in accordance with our charter, I would like to call for the Pledge of Allegiance. I've got a flag behind my computer, so I will kick us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and
to the republic for
which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. First order of business is consideration of approval of the minutes of April 7th, 2020. Now, before we vote on that, I want to point out that the minutes of that last meeting were not included in the packet that was in the link, but they have been posted on the town website since April 9th. So I'll leave it up to the selectmen, to Rich and Paul. If you've read those, we can go ahead and approve them.
I've read them.
Okay. All right, then I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve the minutes of April 7th, 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Rich. Very good. Any corrections? Any comments? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that passes unanimously. Item number 3, first selectmen's report. This is going to be a little bit longer than usual because I've got kind of a lot to cover. First of all, I want to do a little bit of a recap on where the town of Bethel is with respect to the virus and the cases. As of 5 o'clock this evening, Bethel had 129 laboratory confirmed cases of COVID-19. Sadly, we've had 9 fatalities so far. All of those individuals were above the age of 70. 2 of them were above the age of 80. Now, the good news, if there's some a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel on here, that number has not changed in 2 days. It's holding steady. And I was watching the governor's press conference today, and they were showing charts, and it does appear that Fairfield County has passed the peak. So the so-called surge is now over the top and is beginning. If this holds for the last 3 days, we've seen a decrease in the number of new cases reported every day. Also, as the governor pointed out, the number of new hospitalizations it's not going down, but it's not going up as fast as it was. So that curve is starting to bend down. Bethel has had several hospitalizations that have been successfully resolved, by the way, people who've been sent home to continue their recovery. So those are some elements of good news that I wanted to share. In town hall, I sent a message to staff over the weekend, to the department heads, that it's time for us to start making plans to return to normal operations. Everything that I've read, and I'm sure you've read as well, would lead us to believe that it's been 7 weeks to get to this point. So it's probably going to be 6 or 7 or 8 weeks on the backside of it. So we have to continue the safety measures that have been put in place. But at some point in who knows if it's going to be a month or 2 months, we do have to open up town hall to the public again. So we are looking at the changes that are going to have to be made to allow that to happen. So things like office reconfigurations to provide more separation between employees, plexiglass shields in any counters, any of the offices where staff interfaces with the public are going to have to be erected. We'll probably put computer workstations out in the hallways where people can, like in the town clerk's area, in the building department and the health department, where people can apply for things. And our online permitting system is in the beta stage right now, so that's a good thing too. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be taking those steps to get ready for when the day comes that we reopen. Now, there's one more issue that is going to take me a couple of minutes to cover, but I want to bring this up. Since last weekend, I have been made aware of a certain amount of confusion with a couple of Governor Lamont's executive orders. specifically Executive Order number 7I, like India, paragraph 13, which was issued on March 21st. This is the executive order that contains the mandate that requires towns with town meeting form of government to have their Board of Selectmen vote to empower the Board of Finance, which is categorized in the order as the budget making authority. So by vote of the Board of Selectmen to empower the Board of Finance to craft and approve a budget and set a mill rate without holding a town meeting nor referendum. Now, the language in this is very clear. It says shall, and it means it's not negotiable. It's not an option. It says that this will happen. But then on April 1st, a subsequent executive order was issued. This was 7S, Chapter 7. And it contains some very vague and poorly crafted language. And I'm sorry if I'm throwing somebody in the governor's office under the bus, but a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. The language appears to overrule 7I with the phrase, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the key words are at the last part of this order. It says, nothing in this order shall prohibit a municipality from conducting any in-person meeting, approval process, or referendum, providing such municipality first consults with local or state health officials and conducts such meeting in a way that significantly reduces the risk of transmission of COVID-19. So here are the problems with that order. And I can tell you that every elected official in the state that has town meeting government is begging the governor's office to try to clarify this. Number one, the paragraph that contains this sentence specifically refers to approvals to borrow money and appropriations for certain expenditures. It contains no reference to the municipal budget process. It was not included in it. Number two, the language in 7S does not specifically overrule any previous executive order, which it should. If it's going to vacate the provisions of the previous order, it's supposed to say that, and it doesn't. It doesn't even mention it. If the intent of 7S was to overrule 7I, it should have been stated in the preamble. Number three, the provisions of 7N, like Nancy, which was issued on March 26th, limiting public gatherings to no more than 5 people, still remains in effect. It was not canceled. And it calls into question the ability to run a safe referendum under any conditions. Number three, off of the Department of Public Health, not ours, at the state level, has no guidance on what would be considered a legally safe referendum. Aside from the legal problems with the order, the safety of poll workers and volunteers has to be considered. Anybody who's voted knows that a significant number of our poll workers are volunteers and retirees over the age of 65, and that's an age group that is highly vulnerable to this disease. Number five, the town could be exposed to significant liability if a poll worker or a voter contracted the disease as a result of working in close proximity with others. Number six, the election results could actually be challenged if people chose not to vote due to not feeling safe and felt that the referendum shouldn't have been held. So again, the mayors and the first selectmen in virtually every town that has town meeting government have been asking for days directly to the governor's office and through CCM and Council of Small Towns for clarity on this, and we have yet to receive it. So
Matt,
until we, yeah, okay. So, and let me just finish. So until we get some clarity on that, I'm not recommending a referendum. I'm recommending that we proceed as usual. So, yeah.
Matt, these points that you just gave to us, where do they come from? Do they come from CCM or from the governor's office?
I was reading what I just gave you was the text of the orders.
I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Well, the first part of what I just read was from the executive orders.
Yeah.
The second part of it, like the language not specifically
those six points.
Yeah, those were from. I distilled those from several conversations I've had with one of the governor's staff members, and as well as some of the attorneys who are helping the governor draft those orders.
See, I've been getting a few calls from people saying, we really should consider a referendum, and I keep on telling them about the COVID virus too. But is there a safe way? Maybe I'll put this under new business today. We'll discuss it.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that's it for my report. Moving on to public comments. Dion is the master controller, so I will, if you raise your hand, she can unmute you, and we'll take public comments at this point.
If you want to make a comment, I've got a couple people who have already raised their hand, but on the right-hand side of your screen, it should say your participants. And if you go down to the bottom, you'll see where you can raise your hand. So if you'll raise your hand, I'll unmute you and you can speak. And then I'm going to go ahead and mute you again, and so that we can respect the comments of the next person. So I have Billy Michael. Let me see here. Give me just a second.
Screw that up.
Okay. I think you're unmuted.
Billy, we can't hear you.
Nope, we can't hear you. And you're unmuted.
I think Billy's microphone is not working.
No. Yeah, you're not muted, Billy, and we can't hear you.
I'll fix this.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Any better? Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna sign myself in. Billy Michael, 27.5 Fleetwood Avenue. I hate being here. I hate the way this is being conducted. I hate this whole thing. And what I hate most of all is that our elected officials that take all these oaths of office are just lying down throughout the state as we watch our state turn into a form of apartheid. We have two sets of citizens now in Bethel and all throughout the state. If you belong to a public employees union, you don't even have to go to work. You're guaranteed wages. You're guaranteed increases to wages. And you've got people that are people been out of work a month now with their jobs may never come back. And now you're going to put a situation where you're going to give a tax increase. And because we're going to comply and obey the governor, that it's so convenient, all of this emergency decree is leveraged and exploited to avoid giving unemployed people a vote on tax increases that have salary increases for people with guaranteed jobs. This talk about upside down, turning everything that's American about America on its head. And I don't see I want to see our selectmen go raise hell in Hartford and defend us and protect us and say our fiscal year goes all the way to July. We'll wait. Let's wait. Push back against this decree because we do have time. And we could have an outdoor referendum the way Vernon did, I don't know if you know about what Vernon did with that vote they had. You do it outside in 3 places with tents. You drive up. You don't have to be inside the building. And I think this is so exploited to deny not only does it deny the people the right to vote on over $2 million in new tax increases, but now you have meetings where the people, most of the participants in the Board of Finance public portion of the budget are town employees or teachers, making arguments for higher taxes from people that don't have jobs. And if this goes the way it's been proposed with the Board of Finance deciding it, you've got a split Board of Finance. So 4 people of one party will decide the mill rate and over $2 million in new spending. And all the time the narrative goes on. The audacity to present this as a tax increase that's going to raise taxes, $5.91 a month, and not tell them your actual taxes are $604 a month on that $217,000 assessed house at $7,250. It's sickening to me the way this is handled, the narrative, and there's going to be federal money flowing into Hartford. And if you pass this budget with 4 people in the Democratic Party, then money is going to flow in the months ahead through Blumenthal and Murphy and everybody else, all the way from the Fed to Lamont And then we're going to have all this money. You're going to say, oh, we set a mill rate prematurely. We didn't know this money was coming in. I'm so against everything you're doing and disappointed in the way you're being so complacent and obedient and not opening up to protect us. End of message. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Let me see here. Next we have Cynthia.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I don't think I've ever seen so many men with such fresh mustaches.
Cynthia, what's your address?
Oh, 19 Elgin Avenue.
Thank you.
So, yeah, people might look at Billy as, he's very animated and he can be entertaining, but, he has a lot of truth in what he says. And for right now, I'm just going to let go of the referendum because I think that's a fight that can't be won. I really do. And that's just because nobody's pushing back on it. And I have seen Matt Knickerbocker when he wants to get something done. I mean, he just, he's like, he gets out his laser sword and starts, hacking through the brush. So it's not because of lack of ability to push back. And here's what I want. I want like an extension, because if we have another extension, if that's something that could be pushed back on, then we have more time, we have more data, we will have more data. Because it seems like, and I mean, of course, you can call me, suspicious by nature, but there's a little bit of a hurry up and let's pass this, because it would be very good to pass a budget that includes raises and new spending, because the labor department doesn't have the up-to-date unemployment figures yet, which they're not going to have for 1 or 2 months. So what is the harm if you're going to push back? And this seems like a really baby push. Go for another 30-day extension. It's insane what you're doing. It's like you're trying to get it through. Let's get it through real fast, because then it'll be through. And that is really, really horrifying to me. And I will say one more thing about the referendum, for what it's worth. Anybody in this country or on this screen right now who doesn't have any level of concern about what's happening and what a governor can do and stop the votes of the people doesn't understand what this country was founded on. And I mean that sincerely. There was a beautiful, crafted, lovely government back in the day, 1776. I remember it well. And now it's just, it's a shit show, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see here. What do we have here? Okay, Bill Hillman.
I thank you. Bill Hillman, 86 Walnut Hill Road in Bethel. 245 years ago this week, a revolution began following imposed taxes. We have elected officials in Bethel, but the type of representation, the only representation we have in this town to approve taxes, is we the people. Now, I'm not going to repeat the governor's order 7S, nothing in this order shall be construed so far, and whatever Mr. Knickerbocker said. But I will say that we did not elect the Board of Selectmen to impose taxes, nor did we elect the Board of Finance to impose taxes. I want to vote no on a 1.77 million increase with a 0.33 mill rate increase. $1.7 million is a lot, and it's being dictated, as Billy Michaels mentioned, by 4 members of the Board of Finance: Daleen Foster, Robert Manfreda, Robert Palmer, and Wendy Smith. The issue for me isn't the extra $5 or $6 a month, it's the base. $610 a month for the magical house worth $217,000. Today we learned of the closure of Bethel Cinema. That's a symbol of bad times and much worse times to come for so many of the people in Bethel. In fact, you can increase the spending $1.1 million year to year and have no increase in the mill rate. Are the special interests so greedy that they insist on getting more than $1 million increase year to year. Well, I want to vote no. I've got the right to vote no. And I expect my town to fight like hell to retain my constitutional right. We fought a revolution over this. It is wrong not to find some safe way. Heck, we have people doing curbside pickups of free lunches at the schools. I have to believe that a vote can be done by a combination of mail-in and drive-through that is safe or safer than that act. There has to be a vote, and I really demand our town leaders to fight like hell for our constitutional rights. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Does anybody else
Phil Gallagher, I think.
think it's Tim B?
Oh, Tim Beeble, then Phil.
Okay. Give me just
Okay,
a
am I
second.
unmuted?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, on March 10th, as the COVID public health crisis was beginning to hit Connecticut, the Bethel Registrars of Voters administered a referendum for a capital budget item. Without any state mandates forcing us to do so, we instituted a number of modifications to our polling place and the process in order to protect the voters and the poll workers. This included cleaning the voting equipment periodically throughout the day, a no-touch inspection of the voter ID, offering privacy folders as an option, not simply handing it to them, and then cleaning throughout the day the voting booths, the privacy booths, and then the tabulator tenders directed voters to place their privacy folders into a box, and the folders were not reused during the day. On March 14th, then, Executive Order 7B suspended in-person meeting requirements, permitting video meetings where the public can access the meeting by audio or video in real time. And then on the 15th, Executive Order 7C gave towns a 30-day extension of their charter-defined deadlines for adopting a budget. And this was unfair to Bethel. Rather than having the governor say that you have until January or June 15th to pass your budget, they gave a 30-day extension. And it treated towns differently based on what their charter says. We go with an early town meeting date in April. Other towns go with May, so that those later towns have an additional 30 days beyond what we have through this executive order. But beyond that, on March 25th, Vernon conducted a special town meeting using the video option. And then immediately upon moving the question for a vote, the electors in town jumped in their cars and drove down to their town hall for a drive-through vote. And having seen that news coverage, Nancy Ryan and I began formulating a way that we could do the same thing for a budget referendum. Clearly, the town meeting vote did not involve ballots. So we came up with a way of how we would have people check in, drive to another station, get a ballot, drive to the next station, and fill out their ballot with their own pen, turn it over to a poll worker, and within the voter's view, the poll worker would put it into the tabulator. And of course, the poll workers would be gloved and masked and be protected in that way. And they'd be out in the fresh air as well. We looked at the 3 polling places, and the polling places were going to be adequate. We could set up a loop so that the cars could queue up and go through the system. So that wasn't going to be a problem. It wasn't until the following week that we learned about the Executive Order 7I, which was issued on March 21st. And that's the one that mandated the towns go through the process of authorizing their Board of Finances to pass a budget and adopt and set a mill rate. I don't know how you reconcile Executive Order 7I and 7S. However, I think we have to assume that each executive order expands upon and modifies the previous one.
Not necessarily.
Thank you for your input. Whether we hold a budget referendum within the confines of the executive order is up to the Board of Selectmen. If the decision is to hold a referendum vote, it's up to the registrars of voters to come up with a process that is safe in the eyes of the state health department. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I think Phil's next.
Okay, I don't have, okay, all right.
Yep, I don't
Okay,
know.
here you go.
I've never been on one of these before. I feel like I'm on Hollywood Squares.
So I'm sorry, Phil, what's your address?
Bill Gallagher, Sunset Hill Road.
Thank you.
And I would hope there could be a referendum. It's all possible. Listening to Mr. Beeble, it sounds like it's a possibility. I think it should be pursued. But as far as the budget itself goes, I'd just like to offer a couple of thoughts. I've been around here a long time, but I've never seen anything quite like this situation. The only previous time perhaps was in 2009 when I was chairman of the Board of Finance, and we were at the depths of that long recession, and it was a great deal of pressure to zero out the budget, which the Board of Selectmen recommended the Board of Finance. And it's always been a pet peeve of mine. I like to wait for additional information as long as possible. And that year we did get an additional information because the Board of Ed was able to save about 700,000 in their medical account, and it allowed us to painlessly to zero out the increase that particular year. Now, this is a different set of circumstances, but I think the Board of Finance, it's
There
good.
you go.
What do you mean? Where am I going? You can hear me?
Oh, okay, keep going, Phil.
Oh, I see. Shit, there you go. I thought you meant I wasn't on at all. But
No, you were just
we heard
cutting
you.
in and out.
oh, I see. So anyhow, I think it's a good thing that the vote is delayed as long as possible into what's the final date of the Board of Finance?
May
That they-
15th.
May
is the-
15th,
yeah.
which is not a month away, but it's close to it. And hopefully the Board of Selectmen would advise them, if they give them permission to empower a vote without a referendum, that they wait as long as possible and come up with it and listen to all kinds of information, particularly the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is, I don't know what it is, but certainly there's been 20 million people in the United States have filed for unemployment in the last 3 weeks, and I'm sure there's going to be more in the time remaining. A lot of the people, one thing I've benefited by this quarantine is I do a lot of walking. It's been good for my health, and I walk by a lot of houses, and I see a lot of cars, driveways, see a lot of cars in the condominiums, and nobody goes out, nobody goes to work. And that's going to be a factor. I think one of the members of the Board of Finance, I think it was Cynthia, suggested possibility of a one-day moratorium of the public workers in Bethel that would save a day's pay or donate. I guess they're basically donating a day's pay, but that would not be as bad as being out of work as a lot of people are. So that's something to consider. But I would advise the Board of Selectmen to, if you do empower the Board of Finance to set the budget, to make sure they are up to date on the latest information. I mean, they've already modified the original budget proposal because of this, and it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse in the next 3 weeks. So that would be my public comment for the night. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
All right, then we've got Ann Scacco.
Ann Scacco, 30 Spring Hill Lane. I'm also the tax collector for the town of Bethel. I wrote a letter to the Board of Finance for their last meeting. I don't know if anybody received it with all their many emails that they did get. One of the things I wanted to point out about delaying the budget. Obviously, I've long been a proponent for not delaying the budget so that we could get the bills out on time. But this year here, it is very critical that the bills go out by the 1st of July. And the reason for that is part of 7S and 7W is the state has mandated that the town pick a program, either the low interest program or the deferment program, for the people that are out of work and the landlords that don't have tenants and the businesses that are closed. Those bills their deadline to file is July 1st. It has to be billed by July 1st, due on July 1st, in order for this program to go through. So as much as I understand everybody wanting extra money and caring about extra money, you will be taking the benefit away from the most neediest people, people that can apply for this benefit program. And I'm getting a lot of business owners calling about the program, a lot of homeowners calling about the program. I've told them that tonight's the meeting where the Board of Selectmen makes a decision on which program they're going to go with. They're waiting on pins and needles to know what's going to happen. So I recommend strongly that the budget goes through so that we can give the deferral or the lower interest program to those people. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, just give me just 1 second. I'm gonna go through here, and I think that that's it.
Okay, all right.
Ready to move
All
on.
right, anybody else? Okay. Oh, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate that. Everything will be taken under advisement, and we'll have more discussions. Item number 5, correspondence. I don't think there's anything other than what we put in the
No,
link.
there was nothing.
Okay, item number 6, consideration of the annual fair housing resolution. This is required by law. This is rather lengthy. I will read this. Town of Bethel Fair Housing Resolution. I make a motion to put this on the table for consideration. Whereas all persons are afforded a right to a full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice. And whereas federal fair housing laws require that all individuals, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and home ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas Connecticut fair housing laws require that all individuals, regardless of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, marital status, age, lawful source of income, familial status, learning disability, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation or gender identity or expression, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and home ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas the town of Bethel is committed to upholding these laws and realizes that these laws must be supplemented by an affirmative statement publicly endorsing the right of all people to full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Bethel hereby endorses a fair housing policy to ensure equal opportunity for all persons to rent, purchase, obtain financing, and enjoy all other housing-related services of their choice in a non-discriminatory basis as provided by state and federal law. And be it further resolved that the chief executive officer of the town of Bethel or his or her designated representative is responsible for responding to and assisting any person who alleges to be the victim of an illegal discriminatory housing practice in the town of Bethel, and for advising such person of the right to file a complaint with the State of Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities or the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or to seek assistance from the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, Legal Services, or other fair housing organizations to protect his or her right to equal housing opportunities. Close quote. That is the resolution. I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Okay, floor is open. Anything to discuss on this?
No, this is the same thing that we get every year, correct? Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so I'll try your minds. Those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. So I will date this adopted by the town of Bethel on, seeing as how it's past the normal business hour, we'll put down Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020.
Rich wants to say something. Rich,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that, Rich. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would just say this is the same thing we've done in the past.
Yes.
So I was in favor of it.
Yeah, this is the thing, we have to renew this every year. So, all right, thank you for that. Item number 6, consideration of tax relief program for the town of Bethel. As has been mentioned in the public comments, the executive governor's order requires towns to adopt one or both of 2 tax relief plans, and we need to inform the Office of Policy and Management of our determination no later this Friday. So I have a resolution, which is my proposal. I will read this into the record, and we'll get a second, then we'll discuss it. Basically, what I'm proposing is that we adopt the 90-day deferral, which would cover April tax bills and June tax bills. It would cover real estate taxes, property taxes, personal property, utility charges, and utility assessments. So it would cover all of those things. So I'm going to read this into the record. Town of Bethel Resolution RE Tax Deferment Program pursuant to Governor Lamont's Executive Order 2020-7S. Whereas on March 10th, 2020, the governor of the state of Connecticut declared a public health emergency of civil preparedness and civil preparedness emergency for the state of Connecticut, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 19A-131 and 28-9 in response to the global pandemic of COVID-19 disease associated with the novel coronavirus that is currently affecting multiple countries and states. Whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national emergency to combat the coronavirus that is currently infecting the population of the United States. Whereas the effects of transmission of COVID-19 has resulted in the spread of infections in Connecticut and throughout the country, as well as resulting in shortages of personal protective equipment and other supplies that could jeopardize public safety and civil preparedness. And whereas in response to the issuance of declarations of a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency by the governor, he has issued a series of executive orders setting forth the law governing the conduct of business of the state and municipal government during this period of emergency. Whereas on April 1st, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 7S, requiring municipalities by a vote of its legislative body, or in the case of if the legislative body is a town meeting, the Board of Selectmen, to participate in a deferment or low interest rate program. Whereas participation in a deferment program is in the best interest of the town of Bethel. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen of the town of Bethel as follows. During the period of March 10th, 2020, the date that Governor Lamont declared a public health and civil preparedness emergency, through and including July 1, 2020, the town of Bethel shall participate in a deferment program and shall offer to eligible taxpayers, businesses, nonprofits, and residents a deferment of 90 days of any taxes on real property, personal property, or motor vehicles, and water and sewer charges and assessment from such time that such taxes first became due and payable. Number 2, eligible taxpayers, businesses, nonprofits, and residents are those who attest to or document significant economic impact by COVID-19 and or those that document they are providing relief to those significantly affected by COVID-19 pandemic. The town shall follow the guidance as issued by the Secretary of the Office of Policy and Management as to which taxpayers, businesses, nonprofits, and residents shall be considered eligible for a deferment program. Close the motion. So is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the floor is open for discussion. Basically, my recommendation is that we adopt the 90-day deferral, but not the low interest, not to combine them.
Couple questions I've got here, Matt.
Sure.
First of all, how are we going to check on whether or not the taxpayer is eligible because it's of their income status? Do you have any idea how you're going to pursue that? Or maybe Ann's got an idea behind that.
Basically, that was the first question that the municipal people asked the Office of Policy and Management. Seeing as how most tax abatement programs follow the previous year's tax filings. That's obviously not going to work. Most people are not going to have any kind of paperwork. I mean, they might, but basically we just have to tell people that they are attesting to this under penalty of law.
Okay,
So, I mean, for practical purposes, they can't prove it. We have to take their word for it. And I have no problem with that. It's the best we can do.
okay. The second question I've got centers around the payment. Let's just use this current, I guess, May 1st, we have to have the current quarterly payments on residential taxes into
Yep.
Ann's office. So that takes us up until August 1st when they have to pay May's payment. Does that mean on August 1st, they have to do a double payment for both May and
No.
August? What are you going to do
No,
about August now?
No,
Just to
because
let you know, Matt, just to let
Yeah.
you know, I have unmuted Ann, so she's
Oh.
available to speak also if you know.
Okay, I'll let Ann answer the question then. Go ahead, Ann.
Well, first of all, Paul, it's not May 1st. They're due April 1st. So
Well,
they would
it's
have,
30 days yet.
yeah. But it would go back to the April 1st due date. They will have until July 1st, which is the 90 days. Then they can then defer the July installment. But at the 90 days, on 91 day 91, they would go back, the interest would go back to the full interest if they have not paid that April payment. By
I understand
July.
that, but what happens on then July 1st? Do we have to, do they apply for another 90 days delay? in
Well,
payment?
we would continue it for them, not have them reapply unless they felt they needed to. You know, we're just going to continue it through for those people. I'm not sure how many people we're talking about, Paul. I'm getting quite a few phone calls, especially from the businesses. Eventually, they're going to have to make, as you said, a double payment. What I've been recommending to people that have been calling in is that they continue to try to make payments, even if they're small ones, if they're not paid in full, to make it easier for them so that they're not faced with a double payment.
Is your office capable of taking partial payments?
Of course,
Yes.
yeah, we take them all the time.
And
All right.
and of course, there would be no interest on that because of the governor's order.
Correct.
All right.
So the first time that a business or a resident who's paying taxes on their own and not through an escrow account, the first time that they would have the possibility of having to make a double payment would be next October. But there could be, you know, to the point that many of the speakers made here tonight, there could be other relief programs in place by then if things get worse, you know, and the town still has an option of deferring interest if we chose to do so by a vote of the Board of Selectmen before that time. So this is not cast in stone. There's still flexibility, but this would allow people whose April payments could be pushed to July, and then the June payments could be pushed to October.
Okay.
Matt,
Yeah,
just briefly, just to go back to Paul's first question. OPM has done up a simple form to supply to the tax collector. It's not the greatest, but there is a form that they've already formulated in order for the taxpayer to fill out and submit to the tax collector.
that's correct. And we will have that up on the website by tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
I might want to tell you that they've revised it about 10 times so far.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But we do have a form. The latest one, just so everybody is aware, carries an electronic signature so that people do not have to try to scan and get things into us.
Oh, that's good.
So,
Yeah, I have noticed that this particular governor's administration is not fond of asking questions first and correcting things later. So doesn't surprise me. Okay.
It's very restrictive.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rich, you're not muted.
Pretty restrictive.
Hey, Rich, I think you've got low
Can you hear
bandwidth.
me
We can't
now?
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Not really. Maybe
Yeah.
use the chat
All
feature.
right.
Well, that
can
was
you hear
disabled.
me now? Can you hear me now?
No.
Okay, yeah, you're garbled, but go ahead. Try. Let's see if we can get your question in.
Go ahead, Rich, and let's just see if we can hear you.
You can't hear me, so I'm up.
Oh, I can hear you. There you
I can
go.
hear
You
you.
can hear me now. Oh, maybe I wiggled the wire or something.
There you
How
go.
about now?
All right.
All
Yep.
right, okay. I agree with Paul's comments. Those were my questions too, but reading literature on who's available, who can apply for these deferments are pretty limited, in my opinion. So they're going to have to prove a lot of things to hands to qualify for the deferment.
Let me see. So you're asking about who's gonna determine who's qualified? Was that your question?
No.
You froze.
So, Matt,
Can we
what
expand
if-
on it?
Matt, what if we had, what if we just had him to call you? I'll mute him and he could call
Okay.
you. Why don't you call him and put him on speaker?
Yeah.
Rich, Matt's gonna call you.
He's muted right now.
Yeah, I muted him.
Yeah, that's me. I got you on speakerphone. Yeah, we can hear. Yep, can hear you fine.
I can't hear him.
No, he's gonna repeat what he says.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on a second, everybody. Go ahead, Rich. No, actually, the guideline is the taxpayer is.
Matt,
Yeah.
just before you answer his question, could you just let everybody know name what the two of y'all are discussing, because we couldn't hear.
Oh, you can't hear him? Okay.
No.
All right. Rich's question has to do with what does how difficult are the qualifications to qualify to get this tax deferment? And the answer to that is it's very simple. The person has to simply attest in writing, just by signing the form, that they have either lost at least 20% of their income or expect to lose 20% of their income at any time during this year. So again, basically, it's an honor system. If they may have been informed that they're being furloughed next week and they don't have anything to show for it, that's okay. All they have to do is sign the form. I do want to point out also that this applies to landlords, anybody who owns rental property. The original language of this deferment program stipulated that landlords had to attest that they would lose 30% of their rental income and would have to have shown evidence that they offered forbearance to their tenants. However, a later executive order automatically granted a 60-day grace period to everybody who rents. So that qualification is off the table. All the landlord has to do is just send in a form and apply for it. So, did that answer the question, Rich? Okay. Okay. All right.
Matt, for right now, if you'll just keep him on speakerphone and we'll.
Yeah, I'll tip the phone. Maybe, hopefully my microphone here will pick him up. Okay, Rich and Paul, do you have any other questions or comments?
No.
No, Rich? Okay, by the way, who seconded that? Did Rich, did you do that?
Paul did.
Oh, Paul did, okay. All right, then, hearing no further discussion, I'll try your minds on the town resolution for tax deferment. If you're in favor, please signify by saying aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
So Rich voted yes?
Yes, yeah. Yes, you
Okay,
did.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, you know, there's an awful lot of pain going around, and this is just one small step, but I appreciate everybody's support on that. Item number 8, consideration of water main replacement project. This is another resolution. This has already been approved by the Public Utilities Commission and by the Board of Selectmen, but we have to have a resolution in order to apply for grants through Department of Public Health for the water main project. So here's another, this is the night of resolutions. Let me read this into the record. Whereas at the Bethel Special Town Meeting of September 24th, 2019, the town of Bethel approved a resolution to fund an amount not to exceed $998,000 for improvements in the form of water main replacements to the water system for the project referred to and known as the, quote, 2019 Water Main Replacement Project, close quote, which included the following streets: Mansfield Street, Grassy Plain Terrace, Oakland Heights, Maple Lane, Highview Terrace from Grassy Plain Terrace up to 22 Highview, and designate Pleasant Street and Highview Terrace between 22 and 18 as alternative project options. Said sum includes the amount of construction of $882,660, legal fees and other estimated administrative costs in the amount of $8,000, and a total project contingency of 5% in the amount of $44,133. Said funding shall come from bonding, bond anticipatory notes, other borrowing and or appropriations as recommended by the comptroller, and to be reduced by any available grants obtained by the town of Bethel and or the Public Utilities Commission, if any. And whereas at September 24th, 2019 special town meeting, the town body approved the appropriation of the sum not to exceed $998,000 for improvements to the water system for the project referred to and known as the, quote, 2019 Water Main Replacement Project, close quote. Said sum includes construction costs of $882,660, legal fees and other estimated administrative costs of $8,000, and a total project contingency of 5% in the amount of $44,133. Whereas the town of Bethel, Connecticut is desirous to make application to the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health or other such state agencies for loans and or grants for funding to achieve the 2019 Water Main Replacement Project. Now therefore, Matthew S. Knickerbocker, for Selectman of the town of Bethel, Connecticut, or his designee, is duly authorized to enter into and execute all applications, proposals, and or agreements on behalf of the town of Bethel, Connecticut for any and all loans and or grants from the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health or other such state agency for funding to achieve the construction of the 2019 Water Main Replacement Project. And all such loans shall be general obligations of the town of Bethel backed by its full faith and credit. Further, Matthew S. Knickerbocker, for Selectman of the town of Bethel, Connecticut, or his designee, is authorized to provide such additional information and execute such other documents as may be required by any state agency in connection with the loans and or grants submitted by the town of Bethel, Connecticut for the construction of the 2019 Water Main Replacement Project as to any amendments, rescissions, and or revisions to the applications, proposals, and or agreements submitted hereto. Closed motion. So is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so Rich, Paul beat you to it, so that'll go down to his.
We've already discussed this at PUC and previously with the Board of Selectmen, so it's a formality.
Yes, it is. This just allows us to get the grants from, get the money from the grant program from DPH, from the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. So,
Right.
okay, so if there aren't any other questions, I'll try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. And last item on the agenda is consideration of appointment of special town counsel for the pending case entitled Duracell US Operations Incorporated versus Town of Bethel, docket DBD CV 20-6035849-S in the Danbury Superior Court. And I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Carrie Olson, attorney for Murtha Kalina LLC, as our representative on this case. This is a assessment appeal case.
Second.
Okay. Carrie is the attorney who's handling the main case with this assessment appeal, and Duracell filed a second lawsuit. So we're going to keep her on that. So any questions about that? Marty, did you have a comment?
Oh, wait one sec. I'm sorry, Marty, you're muted. There
Okay.
you
You hear me? I
Yes.
just want to make it clear, it's not your normal assessment appeal. What it is that during the ongoing matter of the original assessment appeal, it was discovered that their income and expense reports weren't correct. And we are allowed under the law to issue penalties for their failure to do that. And that's what we did. We issued 2 penalties, and one for 2 different years. That's what they're appealing, the penalties, not the actual assessment.
Okay, yeah, the assessment, right, penalty phase. Okay. Any questions, Richard Paul?
No.
No. No, okay.
Okay, all right. In that case, I'll try your minds. Those in favor of appointing Carrie Olson from Murtha Kalina, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. That motion carries. That concludes our agenda. I'll entertain.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Before
Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead.
I just want to talk about what I opened up when you opened up the meeting about the referendum. I would just want to make a statement that I've got quite a few calls about our taxpayers not having the ability to vote. Matt or maybe I should throw this to Marty too. Is there any way that we can extend? I know we're obligated by way of the referendum to go March, or May 15th. And given the circumstances with this COVID-19 virus, is there any way that we can just ask the governor to extend it, perhaps? I know Ann doesn't like it, but to June 30th, just in case?
Yeah, you could always ask the governor to extend it. I mean, whether or not he does it is another story.
Right.
Okay, what I heard before, I can understand the concerns of the citizens. A lot of them, they'd like to vote. They want to have their voice be heard. But at the same time, they can pick up the phone and call the governor's office too. We all can, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's up to the governor's office to make that decision right now.
No.
You're dealt one hand, you have to deal with it, and it's hard when, he's done this a couple of times. We've had a couple of orders that were issued that later on you get another order and you say, well, wait a minute, we need a clarification here. We've had
we got 2 executive orders.
We've had it not only from his office, but we had the same thing from the Department of Health. The commissioner issued a statement, and then they kind of had their general counsel had to backtrack and say, well, it really didn't mean what it said it meant. That's what you got to deal with, unfortunately.
No. Matt, I don't know. I'm sure you've talked to Tim Beeble. I think I don't know if it's worthwhile pursuing, about having a drive-through. To me, if you can assure you're going to pass something through the window, that sort of meets the obligation of a ballot.
Well, I think there are other legal considerations like, who handles the ballot, who fills out the ballot. How do you protect the people who have to interface with that? There's an awful lot. And I do want to make one comment. I don't want to argue with folks when they're offering public comment. That's not my place. But this has probably been the most hotly contested issue since the governor issued the order way back on March 26th. So to say that nobody's pushing back on this is absolutely not correct. I don't expect anybody to know that, but you might have noticed when I first came on, when my video went live, I was on the phone. I was on the phone with the governor's general counsel talking about this order. As a matter of fact, it is extremely controversial, and there is a lot of pushback around the state on that. Now, one of the things that order says is that you have to consult with your local
Right.
or state health official.
Right.
I have asked Laura to examine this and to issue an opinion. I expect to get that tomorrow or the next day. So if it's, I will be happy to share that information with both of you, with both Rich and Paul. And if necessary, we could reconvene, have a special meeting.
Okay.
So,
The feedback that I'm getting is, too many people, they don't know what their security is going forward. And they're telling me, basically, is this budget affordable? To them, most of them are telling me, no, it's not.
mhm.
And this is the reason why I'm sort of pushing this idea of saying maybe we should consider a pass through the window sort of ballot, uh, I just don't want to get us in that situation where we were in 2009, where we had to just cut back on expenses suddenly.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna do something here. I just want to make this formal. I'm gonna put a motion on the floor that we add as item number 10 on the agenda, discussion of referendum, just so that we're
Okay,
okay. Is there a second?
Sure. I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. So now we'll keep talking.
Yeah.
It is a valid point. I've actually done part of my graduate school work on the history of town meeting government in New England. There is nothing more ingrained in New England culture than the 300-year history of town meeting government. So it's an understatement to say that this thing strikes the rawest of all nerves. There's no question about that. But there are so many other, there are more considerations than just how to run it. How do you have a valid election if it rains real hard and people don't want to go? How do you handle people who don't drive? How do you handle people who say, you took my right to vote away because you had a referendum when the governor's orders were still in effect that said under that first order you can't have a referendum, so I chose not to go for my own safety. There are many considerations in this, and this is what we're really, I wouldn't say beating up, but boy, we're having some very tough conversations with the governor's staff on how to clarify some of this stuff.
Yeah,
And
we're
we've
really
asked-
between a rock and a hard place on this thing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
at the same time, too, you listen to the people. The only thing I've got to add, maybe, and since we haven't really finalized what the budget is, I really encourage Bob Manfreda and the Board of Finance to find out if we can get from the Department of Labor how many people are really receiving unemployment benefits. Because all of us know that, whenever this is going to be squared away, this coronavirus, the method of doing business is going to change massively. And I think it's an impact, all forms of government.
Well,
How about now? Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
yeah,
Matt, can you hear me now?
yeah.
All right. I agree with Paul. I mean, if possible, if you could talk to the governor's office.
I think it's worth the conversation. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got that.
It won't hurt to ask or pursue it. You doing it as the first selectman or, kind of lobbying through the organization, council elected officials.
Yep.
Because all the other towns are in the same boat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, if it's, you know, something that'll consider, you know, clarifying it, making it more clarified, yes or no, or, you know, not just maybe, or wishy-washy, you know.
Yep. All right. I will
Tell us what he
forward you
said.
the information that I get. And anything I can get out of these guys, I will let you know.
Great.
All right. Any further discussion on that topic?
No.
Okay. All right. In that case, we have concluded our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Paul moved. Rich seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Yep. Well, Dion just muted herself by accident, I think. All right. And I want to thank everybody who's tuned in tonight. Thank you for taking the time and participating, and thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.